Hi there maple fans, and in this video I'm going to show you what happened to 6 maples I bought in June 2022, how they've done since then, did they survive, did they thrive, let's find out. Properly grafted a Counterphobium, so I think I've seen this under strange names called peacock feathers or something, because sometimes they like to jazz the name up a bit, but something really quite unusual. They're kind of autumn. So this little Counterphobium there honestly hasn't done very much really. I think it seems happy enough. It seems to be okay, but we're certainly not seeing a massive growth spurt, and I have looked at the other video and perhaps you could do the same thing. I think it's pretty similar in size. As you will see, it has definitely put on some growth. It's thriving really. A little bit of burn on 1 or 2 leaves. We are heading sort of, it's late September into autumn now. We've got those Cimeras, which is interesting for such an immature plant really, and has those classic peacock feather style serrated leaves really. But overall, very pleased with the tree. But you'll see a slow growth rate here. It's interesting actually as well how it kind of grows. There's some really lush new growth on this, which is just lovely. And inside there, sort of new buds emerging. So overall, I'd say the tree's doing really well and exhibiting a lovely but slow growth rate really. This is a Wilson's pink dwarf, and actually it's really quite a nice big specimen of it. As a reminder, all of these were £12.50, so yes, you're going to buy something bigger in a garden centre, but it's probably 35-40 quid. And it's been really nicely grown. There's new growth on there. You can clearly see kind of the original sort of plant at the bottom, and then lots and lots of new growth flying off the top. In fact, he was starting to do this when I bought it, to be fair, but that trend has most definitely continued. So we'll start with a close-up of the leaves of Wilson's pink dwarf. And this is where I think it gets quite interesting, because this is a dwarf variety, as in the name, and it's not pink. But of course in the spring it certainly will be, and is exhibiting a pretty decent amount of new growth, to be honest. Now, because it got a bit over damp in the winter, and because the pot I put it in, silly me, was a bit big, there was a bit of dieback on here. But since then, it's kind of recovered after the very, very damp March we had here in the UK, and is now doing well. And just spotted these couple of leaves actually, lovely new growth. And there we have the sort of pinky growth that gives the cultivar its name really. And in terms of the graft point, yeah, you can clearly see where it is on this one actually, because the trunk's so green, but no problems there. All good really. But interestingly, for a dwarf maple, that's put on a lot of growth. And in fact, if I pull back and show you the little Viridis in front of it and the other ones, interesting that it is a dwarf variety, but some of them do put on quite a bit of growth and then slow down. So that's really worth bearing in mind actually. Don't worry if it grows quite fast in the early year or two, because that's what will happen. But this tree is Viridis, so I'm really pleased to grab one of these. It's a weeping lace leaf. You can see just there that it's very lacy indeed. So here we have Viridis, which is the one without a label because it wasn't actually on show really. So the lady kindly got it for me. What you can see here is some growth. It's not sprung up, but there's definitely areas you can see where there's sort of new lime green growth there, and it's definitely improved and it's grown. Yep, definitely showing signs of growth. difficult to tell on Viridis the sort of old and the new growth to some degree until you examine the little stems. They're sort of quite red on the new stems here and a sort of silver on the old. So that's how you can tell where the new growth is really. Overall, if we come out, yep, she's done really well. So as it's a sort of weeping kind of lace leaf maple, we're not expecting huge things, but interesting that despite that, it's still considerably bigger than the maple next to it, so the Aureum. But just a lovely addition, and it's not going to sort of outgrow anything too much and retain its small size. Aureum. If you watch my Kingston Lacy video, they've probably got some of these in the garden. I think they are Aureums probably. Pretty old cultivar, really pretty. Put them in sun, they'll sort of go more yellow, but there's a lovely kind of greens and pinks and tones to that, which is really nice. Onto the Aureum, again extremely similar size I think to what it was, and I think some of these plants just need, I don't know, the first year perhaps to sort of bed in and improve their root system or do whatever they need to do really. So it's certainly not unhappy, but it's pretty much where we were. Have left it in a slightly exposed position, maybe that hasn't helped. The leaves have burnt a little bit. If you look at the leaves close up, is a classic Shiroswanum. Some damage on one or two leaves, but nice to see some new growth in there. It sort of buds very similar to the Counterphobium actually. If we just zoom out a bit, nice little tree. Hasn't grown a great deal. This is a slow grower, like most of the Shiroswanums really. Well, slower. I think this is the slowest I've come across. But looking absolutely lovely. The graft point down here is looking fine and healthy. It's all sort of healed over. So that little fella's done really, really well. And here we have something completely different. This is Acer Palmatum and Wendy. Something new, very new cultivar. Looks to be quite vigorous. There's a lot of new growth there. This was the wild card, the odd one out that was kind of the same name as the lady who sold it me. And wow, just seems to have taken off really. Again, gave it lots of shade, a little bit of TLC, but it's done really, really well. I think one of the viewers actually commented, you know, do I not sort of fertilise these plants when I repot? This is kind of why not, because there's plenty of energy, plenty of nitrogen in the compost to keep it ahead of the game really. So I just don't feel I need to supplement that. Kind of hard to believe that on Acer Palmatum and Wendy here, how different it is, how the growth rates can be very, very different in degree. Looking at some of that summer growth up close, sort of nice sort of deep red coloration on the new leaves. So many of these cultivars do offer something in the late summer really, which is lovely. But if we go out, so this is the same kind of magnification I've been using, sort of 1 times. Actually, I need to go to a wide angle to actually get the whole tree in. So that's quite amazing. The difference again between that, if I pull back, and the little fellas below, which all started a year ago or so, just over a year at the same size, is profoundly different. So as I say, selecting the right cultivar and knowing where it's heading can be super, super important. Not to say that, you know, because this is in a pot, it will have its growth restricted. Of course it will. But if you're trying to bonsai this, or you're trying to keep it really small, you're kind of fighting it a lot. So it may not be ideal, but as a tree that's going to put on a bit of growth and look fantastic, then a very, very nice case of Palmatum Akushimo. So hadn't got a clue what this was. Fortunately, where the place is, they've got pretty good
Wi-Fi, sorry, mobile phone reception.
Akushimo will land up considerably taller. It's not a dwarf. It will be several meters high potentially in 10 years. But as you can see, it's again doing really well. It's springing upwards as it does. That's its habit. That's its growth pattern. As those that follow the channel will know, I just love this one. Akushimo, documented back to 1710 in Japan. Graft has worked really well. It's sort of healed up nicely and all merged together with the main trunk now. And as you can see, it's got these gorgeous little curled over leaves, which I just think are really cute. They're actually quite small leaves as well. So if I put my hand here, ooh, that's difficult. So you can sort of see how tiny perhaps these things are. But again, interesting, I bought sort of some quite similar trees, and unlike Wendy next door, which has gone outwards, this is very much, you know, it's like Jack and the Beanstalk. It's just heading up really.